Hello everyone, welcome to the video class on NIPER Crash Course series. In this series, I am going to explain about all the previous NIPER examination questions with explanation. So please follow the series, all the NIPER aspirants. So in this video, I'll be dealing with pharmacology questions, answers with explanation, but the whole series will have all the subjects like medicinal chemistry, organic chemistry, biochemistry, physiology, everything will be included. So I'll be explaining the concepts, the tips required to crack the exam, and what all the strategies need to be followed. And this is my YouTube channel. If you like the video content, do share the video. Let's get into the topic. Now, all the questions are, as I told you, all of them are previous NIPER questions. So let us analyze all the questions one by one. Now, one of the question, bromohexane produces its effects by. Now let us understand this. These type of questions are known as mechanism of action. So straight away the question gives the drugs and you need to understand what is the drug is and what is the mechanism of action is. Now the important thing for pharmacology is the moment you look at the drug, you need to understand the category of the drug. Now bromohexane is a mucolytic expectorant. Now understand the words mucolytic. That means it reduces the formation of mucus, and expectorant, and it enables the expelling of this mucus. This is how it acts. Now, when you see the mechanism of actions, look at this. Blocking cuff center. No, this is not the mechanism of action. Now, depolymerization of mucopolysaccharides. So, this is what is meant by mucolysis. When depolymerization, that means when mucopolysaccharides are depolymerized, what happens? The hydrolysis of mucopolysaccharides occurs that will reduce the phlegm. This kind of drugs are also known as phlegm thinners. That means the mucus formation will be reduced. That is the reason why they are categorized as mucolytics. Other thing, desensitizing lung stress receptors, no. Reflexively increasing bronchial secretions means they are not mucolytic. They are increasing the mucus secretion. This is also not. So the answer for this question is this one. So the moment you look at this kind of questions, you need to know what is the class. Simple thing, mucolytic expectorant. The moment you have mucolytic, you will get this answer. Moving to the next one. Now see, mercury poisoning antidote is all of the following except. So these are except kind of questions. That means out of 4, 3 answers are correct. The odd man out, you need to figure out. Only one is not used to treat this mercury poisoning, and you need to find out what is the drug is. See, for all the questions, the important thing is you need to read the question carefully. So don't miss these parts except. Now DMSA stands for dimercaptosuccinic acid. See, understand this, dimercaptosuccinic acid. Now mercapto means sulfur groups. The moment you have sulfur groups are there, negative charge association will be there. Penicillamine also has got an acid and a mercapto group is there. Dimercaptol, again di means 2, mercapto means sulfur. It is a propanol derivative. Now thiomersal. These are all the options. Now when you see about mercury poisoning, you need to understand the concept. Now mercury is hydralzinum. So what happens is, to take out this poison, antidotes will be using chelation. That means they will bind with mercury. They will form this kind of bonds, especially the sulfur will be forming this kind of bond. This kind of bond formation is known as chelation. Chelation means like a jaw. When our teeth, both the teeth chew a food particle, that is called as chelation. Like jaw, both the sulfur forms a bond with mercury and it is complexed. So when it is complex, it goes out of the body and it will not show any adverse effects. So all the drugs which has got sulfur will be acting as a very good antidotes, mercapto. So all the 3 are very good antidotes. Only thiomersal is not an antidote. In fact, thiomersal in its structure itself, it contains a mercury. And the property of thiomersal is, it is an antiseptic and it is also a antifungal agent. So this is not used to treat mercury poisoning. So this is what is the except one is. Remaining all 3 can be used to treat mercury poisoning. Thiomersal? No. So the answer is thiomersal. Moving to the next one. Now this is also important one. What is the mechanism of saroglitazar, a novel first-in-class drug? Understand the question. So there is a new classification is there. In that new class, the first drug is this one, saroglitazar. Now, this is a new drug. In NIPER, usually there will be questions related to newer drugs. See the options. The first one is dual PPAR agonist. PPAR means peroxisome proliferator activating receptor. Now, in case of PPAR, you have two receptors are there. Alpha receptors are there, gamma receptors are there. Now, when you get into the details, alpha receptors like phenofibrates, all the fibrates, they are alpha activators. Whereas gamma receptors are different, like pioglitazone. Pioglitazone, now look at them. So when you use PPAR alpha receptors, they will be reducing lipids. When you use PPAR gamma receptors, they are reducing sugar levels, or which is used to treat diabetes. So two classes are there. Now when it says dual PPAR agonist means it will be acting on both alpha and gamma. And their specific class of drug is saroglitazar. So this is a new kind of drug and you need to understand what does it mean by. See, remaining classes are also related to hypoglycemic agents, dipeptidyl peptidase 4 inhibitor, glucagon-like peptide, aldose reductase inhibitors. All of them are antidiabetic or sugar-reducing hypoglycemic agents. But this particular drug belongs to dual PPAR. Dual means two of the receptors, alpha and gamma. It will be acting on both the receptors and reduces sugar levels. This is what is the answer. So the answer is dual PPAR agonist. Moving to the next one. Now, see, the drug which is used against schistosomal infection is, see, all these drugs can be used to treat helminthies infections or parasite infections. But the drug which is specifically used to treat schistosomal infection is praziquantel. Now, praziquantel, when the drug is taken, the parasite membrane permeability for calcium is increased. That means the parasite will be having more amount of calcium inside itself. What happens when calcium is there? It causes contraction and a kind of paralysis, and that is what causes the death of organism. And it is very specific to schistosoma. Remaining all the drugs are used as antiparasites, and you know ivermectin, some time ago it was used to treat COVID, but now WHO, ICMR, FDA, all of them disproved its use against COVID. It can only be used to treat parasital infections. Coming back to our topic, so answer for this one is praziquantel. Mechanism, calcium channel permeability is increased. Moving to the next one. Now, Ramelton acts as, so this is again a kind of new kind of drug. Ramelton is a melatonin receptor agonist. Usually it acts as an hypnotic. It will be acting on melatonin 1 and melatonin 2 receptors. Now, melatonin is sleep inducing hormone in our brain. Usually during night times when light is not there, melatonin releases and that gives us sleep. So when this drug is used, it is acting as a receptor agonist and melatonin will be activated and it induces sleep. So it acts as melatonin receptor agonist. Moving to the next one. Now, rilmenidine, an antihypertensive drug, acts as, again this is a centrally acting agonist of imidazolin receptor. It acts at the brain, central receptors. And it is acting as antihypertensive by reducing sympathetic overactivity. So this is how it acts. Rilmenidine is agonist of imidazolin receptor. Moving to the next one. Which of the following is the ligand that opens ligand-gated calcium channel in endoplasmic reticulum? See, when you see the cells, inside the cells you have endoplasmic reticulum is there. Now inside the endoplasmic reticulum you have a lot of reserves of calciums are there. So whenever a cell got stimulated, calcium is released, some of the calcium is taken back into endoplasmic reticulum. So inside the cell, endoplasmic reticulum acts as calcium reserve. Now out of this, one ligand is present, which present on this endoplasmic reticulum. When it is stimulated, calcium is released from endoplasmic reticulum, and that is IP3, inositol triphosphate. So this is the natural ligand. When it binds with endoplasmic reticulum, releases calcium into the cell. So the answer is IP3. Moving to the next one. Now, SGL2 inhibitors are, understand this, SGL2, S stands for sodium, GL stands for glucose, T is transporter. This SGL2 transporter is present at our nephron. The job of this transporter is, so imagine, let's say this one is the nephron. From the nephron, whatever the glucose is there, see the surrounding blood vessels will be having glucose. So the glucose will be reabsorbed into the nephron with the help of SGL2 transporter. So what happens? From the blood, glucose is reabsorbed. Now inhibition means this reabsorption is inhibited, glucose goes out. What is the use? Reduces levels of glucose in the blood. So it is an hypoglycemic agent. That will be reducing glucose levels in the blood. Now understand, all these things are the suffixes which ends with all antidiabetic drugs. Glitazar, you know, I have explained a dual PPAR agonist, saroglitazar. Look at this, saroglitazar. So all this class of drugs ends with glitazars. So this is dual PPAR1, not SGLT1. Now glinides, repaglinide, meglinide, both of them are insulin secretory drugs. Again, they are not SGLT2 inhibitors. In fact, when you see these SGLT2 inhibitors, the popular drugs are canagliflozin and dapagliflozin. So from what they end with? Gliflozins. So gliflozins are this one. So the answer for this one inhibitor class is this one. Now understand this question. So the question is not directly asking about a drug, rather it is asking for this kind of classes. And you can see all of them has got similar endings. So you may get confused. So you need to be careful. In NIPER especially, this kind of questions are frequently tested. Now moving to the next one. See, in response to DNA damage, P53 can mediate. This is a kind of physiology question, but you need to understand this. P53 is a gene, and the product of this protein is known as tumor suppressor protein. What do you mean by that? Tumor suppressor means it will arrest the tumor growth. It has got two functions. It will reduce the cell division, as well as it also responsible for cause of cell death. In fact, there is a process. When there is an irreparable damages to the cell will undergo a programmed cell death known as apoptosis. Now let us understand the question. In response to DNA damage, when DNA damage is there, what is that? It is an irreversible damage. So the P53 gene push it for apoptosis. So the answer is it is only apoptosis. Understand this. Cell cycle arrest? No. If cell cycle is arrested in a particular phase, the cell components will remain as such. No, cell will make sure that it is causing cell death with the help of this gene, and the cell death is apoptosis, programmed cell death. So the answer is B. Now, moving to the next one. Now the co-receptor responsible for the entry of HIV into the host. See, usually HIV enters into CD4 cells. It has got CD4 receptors are there. Along with that, it has got co-receptors are there. They are known as CCR5. For viral entry, both the receptors are required. You block one receptor, virus cannot get inside the cell. So the answer is CCR5. All the remaining receptors are known as chemokine receptors. For your knowledge, the first human cloning is done by manipulating the CCR5 receptors. A Chinese researcher, Jian Kui, this researcher changed these receptors on embryos, and with this result, two twins were born knocking off these receptors. He theorized that when these receptors are knocked out, HIV infection will not occur. But this is unethical, so he was in the jail for this kind of experiment. But anyway, getting back to the one, so the co-receptor responsible is CCR5. Moving to the next one, identify the neuraminidase inhibitors. Now we need to understand what is this neuraminidase and hemagglutinin. Now see, especially these two are found in influenza virus. Now influenza virus, when it infects human cells, it takes the help of hemagglutinin. Imagine this one is a human cell. So the virus, with the help of this hemagglutinin, gets inside the cell. Once it gets inside the cell, it multiplies, the number increases. Now once the number is increased, it comes out of the cell with the help of neuraminidase enzyme. So when you inhibit this neuraminidase enzyme, what happens? All the virions remains inside the cell, so they cannot spread the infection. The infection spread is inhibited. And drugs which will act in this way are oseltamivir and zanamivir. Oseltamivir is very popular. The brand name is Tamiflu. So this was widely used. So this is what is. So neuraminidase inhibitor is oseltamivir and zanamivir. See, remaining all the drugs are antiviral drugs, but mechanism wise only oseltamivir is there. Moving to the next one. Now elvitegravir, an antiretroviral drug. See, this is an integrase inhibitor used to treat HIV infection. Now integrase means, see, HIV has got an RNA genome. So the RNA gets into the cell. It is converted with the help of reverse transcriptase. It is converted into a DNA. Now this DNA is incorporated in human genome. Imagine this one is human DNA. To this, the viral DNA is attached, and this happens with the help of enzyme integrase. So when this integrase is inhibited, viral gene cannot be incorporated in human genome, and that class of drug is elbitiravir and raltegravir. Both of them are example for these drugs, for this class. Going to the next one. Now, which of the following agent would produce long-term inhibition of gastric hydrochloric acid through irreversible mechanism? See, pantoprazole. What is this? Proton pump inhibitors. Proton pump inhibitors will be acting irreversibly, and they cause long-term inhibition of gastric HCl. So the answer is pantoprazole, option A. Going to the next one. Now, fomivirsen is an example of which of the following biological product? Now see, this one is an antisense oligonucleotide. So the answer is B. Let us understand what do you mean by antisense. Now see, certain virus will come up with RNA. It has got an RNA. So according to the codons present on RNA, it will be producing proteins. Now when you say antisense, the complementary codons containing RNA is known as antisense. Because the codon complementarity is there, both of them will form a complex. When the complex is formed, this protein is not produced, so the RNA function is inhibited. So these things are called as antisense. So to neutralize viral RNA, a complementary RNA is given, and that is what is known as antisense. And example for this one is fomivirsen. Moving to the next one. Now, glucagon-like peptide 1 receptor agonist. Now see, this is these class of drugs are used to treat diabetes mellitus. Now all glutides, liraglutide, exenatide, liraglutide, all of them belong to this class. See, glutides, semaglutide. In fact, how do they act? Glucagon-like peptides, how do they act means they are known as incretin mimetics. Let us understand the concept. Incretin mimetics means, imagine you take 5 mg glucose through oral route and 5 mg glucose through IV route. Now what it is observed is when the glucose is taken through oral route, the insulin release is high. Same quantity when you take through oral cavity, insulin release is high. The reason is in the gut we have certain hormones known as incretins. They will increase the levels of insulin release. So when you give mimetics, incretin mimetics, insulin level will be increased, and they will help to control blood sugar levels. And in that class, semaglutide comes. So the answer is A. The next one, chloroquine and quinoline antimalarials act by. All of them are known as hemojoin inhibitors. See, when this Plasmodium vivax attacks our red blood cells, what happens is in the red blood cells, it attacks hemoglobin. In the hemoglobin, globin is utilized by parasite. Heme is packed as a polymer, and this polymer is known as hemozoin. Why it is made into polymer and kept under a vacuole is, this heme is toxic to parasite. So it polymerizes, put inside a vacuole, and that is called as hemozoin. So when people take chloroquine, this hemozoin is disrupted, heme is released, that will attack the parasite. This is what is the mechanism of action of all quinoline kind of drugs, and the answer is hemojoin inhibitor. Now, which of the following is an NMDA receptor blocker? Now, NMDA receptor is a glutamate receptor which is an excitatory receptor. Now, NMDA receptor blocker, there are certain drugs are there like memantine, ketamine, amantadine kind of drugs. When you block excitatory, what happens? It results in inhibitory, and ketamine is used as anesthetic agent. And some of the drugs are used to treat Alzheimer's disease also. But the NMDA receptor blocker example is memantine. Moving to the next one. Now, adrenergic receptor having lipolysis properties, beta 3 receptors. You know, beta 1 are prominent on heart, beta 2 on lungs, alpha 1 on blood vessel. Beta 3 receptor, they have a physiological property of causing this lipolysis. Still the drugs are under investigation, but the answer is C. Now, a common adverse effect of valproic acid. Now, you need to understand this thing. See, carcinogenicity is a very problematic adverse effect. If it is a potential carcinogen, it should not be used. Only alkylating agent has got mutagenic and carcinogenic properties. Leaving that, no other drugs has got it. So you can see all these drugs could be of valproic acid, but this, no. If this adverse effect is there, it will not be allowed to use in market. A common sense one. It is not carcinogenic. So see, again, this is an except question. You need to read properly. Now, anti-emetic effect of metoclopramide is mainly due to D2 receptor antagonism. Again, it is acting at central one. Metoclopramide is widely used to treat nausea emesis induced by cancer drugs, chemotherapeutic drugs. Now, the antidote to atropine. You need to understand what is atropine. Atropine is anticholinergic drug. So, anticholinergic drug, what happens? Cholinergic stimulation is decreased. So, you need to increase the levels of acetylcholine, and that could be act as antidote. Pilocarpine, yes, cholinomimetic, so it can be used. Now, what is pralidoxime? Pralidoxime is an organic phosphate antidote. No, it is not. Benzatropine is anticholinergic. It aggravates the condition. Adrenaline is adrenergic drug. No, it is not. So the answer is pilocarpine. Moving to the next one. The drugs used to treat pulmonary hypertension, the choice is bosentan. Bosentan kind of drugs, see, pulmonary hypertension is a different serious condition. And this kind of can be treated by drugs like endothelin antagonist. Endothelin means the red blood cell basement layer are endothelial cells. When endothelin is released, it causes vasoconstriction. When it is antagonized, vasodilation occurs, and that can be used to treat pulmonary hypertension, and the drug is bosentan. Moving to the next one. Which of the following anti-Parkinson drug may cause peripheral vasospasm? See, bromocriptine has got a notorious property of causing peripheral vasospasm and aggravating a syndrome known as Raynaud's syndrome. Especially fingers and toes will get constricted, and that reduced blood flow may cause necrosis too. So this bromocriptine is responsible for causing peripheral vasospasm. Now, cyclophosphamide is converted to which active form? Cyclophosphamide is an anti-cancer drug, alkylating agent. It is a prodrug. When it metabolizes, it releases acrolein. Acrolein is a toxic product which will cause hemorrhagic cystitis. The other one is phosphoramide mustard. This is acting as an alkylating agent, but acrolein is a toxic product. It can be neutralized by using MESNA. Mercaptoethyl sodium sulfonate. So this is used to neutralize this acrolein. Moving to the next one. Zanamivir, oseltamivir, zanamivir, I have already explained, they resemble neuraminic acid and combine with that viral enzyme and inhibit the function of that zanamivir. So these 25 questions, please go through it again. All of them are given in NIPER previous papers, and this will help you in your preparation. Thank you for watching this video. If you like the video, do share the video.